Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We are counting down the final hours before Path of Exile 2 enters early access, and I still am not sure what I want to play. But Grinding Gear Games has released the Ascendancy classes that are going to be available in early access. So I'm going to go through all of these here today and see if anything really jumps out to me and what I can get my hands on and tinker with once the game launches tomorrow. So I'm going to preface this by saying that I do not know much about PoE 2. I have not played the game. I have not watched gameplay outside of ExileCon and the reveal trailer last week or so. But I do know that something I really want to know going into PoE 2 is what the Ascendancy classes can do and what I can kind of be trying to work towards as I am leveling my character. So I am really excited to see what these Ascendancy classes have in store for us. Now, if you are unfamiliar with me, I will be making a lot of Path of Exile 2 content. I put out well over 500 videos on Path of Exile 1. I'm a tinkerer. I like to just take concepts and try and make them work into builds. And over the past several years, I've made dozens of really unique builds that are off meta that I find a way to make work, mostly playing in SSF, and a big part of the content that I put out here on YouTube is kind of showcasing the process of how I make my builds and how they come together. And I've taught a lot of people how to create their own builds in Path of Exile and inspired a lot of people to really go after creating their own builds in a similar way that I do. So if you are interested in Path of Exile 2 content, definitely subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. And if you are catching this video in the first day that it's live and still need a key to play early access Path of Exile 2, I have a Twitter post. You can go to my Twitter, follow me on Twitter, and like this post, and I will do a drawing for 2 early access keys about probably 24 hours after this video goes live, a few hours before PoE 2 early access launches. So get on that if you are interested in trying to get your hands on one of those early access keys. But without further ado, let's get into this. Starting with the Sorceress class, there is an Ascendancy called Stormweaver. There are 10 notable Ascendancy nodes here. The first one, these text is kind of tiny here, but it's called Scouring Winds. Exposure you inflict lowers the affected resistance by an additional 20%, very similar to the Elementalist in PoE 1. That is just a 1 Ascendancy that gives 2 passives to get to Scouring Winds. 20% resistance reduction is a lot of extra damage. On this node here, number 2, Tempest Caller, grants skill Elemental Storm. Trigger Elemental Storm on critical hit with spells. It says here, Elemental Storm creates a stationary fire, cold, or lightning storm at a target location for a duration based on the highest elemental damage type for the hit that triggered the storm. Hits which do not deal elemental damage will not trigger the storm. So it has to be an elemental spell crit to trigger an elemental storm. That makes sense. And then the node behind it, Rain Dancer, gives Elemental Storm 150% more cooldown recovery rate. Now, we're not given the cooldown here, so don't know how useful this will be. This would really kind of play into how many spells you're getting off quickly, so your cast speed, and the amount of crit chance that you have. So if you're not dealing out tons of spells really fast, Rain Dancer might not be super necessary until you get to a more min-max state, but the Elemental Storm seems pretty cool, especially if the damage would be pretty solid on it. Number 4 here. Heavy Snows. Targets can be affected by 2 of your chills at the same time. Your chills can reduce action speed by up to a maximum of 35% and 25% less magnitude of chill you inflict. Then beyond that, number 5, Shaper of Winter. All damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. So I would guess chill magnitude is the amount of reduced action speed that you gain by chilling an enemy, or maybe chill magnitude counts towards a stacking buff that would allow you to get the chill off. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but there's a lot to play in there to get big chills off, as you'd be able to get chills with any type of elemental damage if you get Shaper of Winter. That seems pretty cool. Number 6, the left side of this is Strike Twice. Targets can be affected by 2 of your shocks at the same time and has 50% less shock duration. Now in PoE 1, shock increased the damage an enemy takes of all kinds. It's not just for lightning or anything. I would imagine shock probably works similarly in PoE 2. So if you're attacking quickly enough and are able to get 2 shocks off, it seems like this would double the effect of your shocks as long as you can keep them up. And then beyond that, number 7, Shaper of Storms. All damage from hits contributes to shock chance. So similarly to the chill one, you could do physical damage or fire damage or cold damage and get a shock from that hit. Nothing here with regard to shock effect, or maybe it would be called shock magnitude, as is indicated by the chill wording here. Number 8 is Constant Gale. You have Arcane Surge, which grants 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regeneration rate. That is the same that it does in Path of Exile 1. A more multiplier for your cast speed is definitely very nice. Beyond that is Force of Will, giving 1% increased effect of Arcane Surge on you per 15 max mana. So you would need 150 mana to get an additional 1% more cast speed. And I don't know what the passive tree looks like. I don't know if there's more Arcane Surge scaling on there. There probably is. It's a massive tree. There's bound to be all kinds of stuff there. And I don't know how much mana scaling potential there is. If it's the same as PoE 1, and you could see upwards of like 4k plus mana, there could be a lot of power in Force of Will there. And lastly here, we have Heart of the Storm. This is a one-off, kind of like Scouring Winds, which gives 40% of elemental damage taken is recouped as energy shield. This is the only really defensive thing here, outside of maybe chill, if you would consider that a defensive thing. But this would require you to spec into energy shield to gain benefits from that. And 40% of damage taken recoup is quite a lot. So this could be very strong if you're building into an energy shield character. That seems pretty cool. There's a lot of different things to work with there. Seems very versatile. Good stuff. I think that one will be good for sure. Up next is the Chronomancer. Only 8 nodes here. Let's see, where would you start here? You start at the top. So 1 here is Now and Again. Skills have a 33% chance to not consume a cooldown when used. That sounds insane. That is ridiculous, actually. Chance to not consume a cooldown. Now, cooldown skills are generally more powerful than skills that you could just endlessly cast or attack with based on your attack speed or cast speed and mana consumption. But a cooldown, like you have that extra delay built in there, being able to bypass that could be just incredibly powerful with that one node there. Beyond that, number 2 here grants a skill called Time Snap. Manipulates time, resetting the cooldown of your other skills. There's probably a cooldown on that as well. So if you have lots of cooldown abilities, you could just reset them all at once without relying on Now and Again, but you would have to pass through Now and Again to get to Unbound Encore and get to the Time Snap. That's very interesting, very unique, and it's going to enable things that you're not going to be able to do on other classes, without a doubt, with the cooldown resets. That's very nifty. The other side of this, it lists 3 first, which is at the bottom, so I'm going to look at 4. 4 grants Temporal Rift. It's a spell that passively leaves after images of your recent past. Cast the spell to return to the oldest after image, teleporting to that location and resetting your life, mana, and energy shield to the values they had at the time. So the same way I believe it works in Path of Exile 1, you'll have a little trail of after images following you, and you can use it kind of like a movement skill to like warp back. Could be a nice defensive thing to get yourself out of trouble, or you spent all of your mana and you need to like pop back and regather all that mana easily if you're out of a mana flask or something. There's a lot of versatility with it, though it is not the most useful for a movement skill because it's not going to move you forward, only backwards. So beyond Footprints in the Sand, giving Temporal Rift, is number 3 here, which is Ultimate Command. Grants skill Time Freeze. Releases a large wave that stops time for all affected enemies for a duration. Duration is lower the more times the enemy has had time stopped for them. Now, this doesn't specify here that the amount of time stopped is lower for rare or unique enemies, for example. There might be more to this. I'm not sure. We don't have the cooldown information or anything there, but we got to see this in action in the reveal of the in-game, the whole content bint. They showed this time freeze in action. Having to go through Temporal Rift to get it's going to be costly. It's going to take 2 of your 4 ascendancies to get down there for that. And this might be really, really valuable, actually, early on while you're trying to get to understand the enemies in the game, what their moves are and what they do. But it's going to stop them in time. It'll give you a chance to escape, but it's not going to do what a Temporal Chains or Chill would do, giving you more time to react and learn enemies' moves that way. This is a completely different thing with the time freeze. The very unique Ascendancy class here. What else do we got? Number 5, a one-off Ascendancy here, called Quicksand Hourglass. Every 12 seconds, gain 50% more cast speed for 4 seconds. That's a lot of cast speed, but only a 33% uptime on that. And that's not a skill, so the reduction to cooldown I don't think is going to matter there. I think that's just going to be when it's up, it's up. When it's not, that's kind of useless. So it could be really good for just like getting big bursts of damage out, but you have to account for that cast speed in your mana consumption as well. So this is going to be harder to work in. There's potential there, but it's more niche based, I think. Number 6, Apex of the Moment. Another one-off here. Enemies in your presence are slowed by 20%. There we go. That would stack with a chill or a temp chains, like I was mentioning, to try and learn the enemy's abilities in a new game. Because we don't know what all the enemies are, what the bosses are, what they're going to be doing. Slowing enemies is a great way to get around that and really familiarize yourself with the enemy's abilities, and this would allow for that. Big defensive node here, giving you more reaction time to any enemy abilities. And lastly, we've got 7 and 8. 7, Circular Heartbeat, says 30% of damage taken recouped as life. Now, with the Stormweaver, this was just elemental damage taken recouped as energy shield. On the Chronomancer, this is any damage taken recouped as life. And I think that has to be hits. It doesn't specify damage taken from hits, but I don't know if damage over time can be recouped. I would imagine not, but I could be wrong. That is a lot of damage recoup. And then beyond that, the Rapid River says recoup effects instead occur over 4 seconds. So that is an ascendancy keystone. So recoup in PoE 1, I believe, occurred over 4 seconds. And there was a way to lower it to 3, I believe. So the recoup calculations are definitely going to be different here if this is showing up, lowering recoup effects to be over 4 seconds. So with this ascendancy, there's a lot of strong defensive stuff. The only big offensive things are going to be in the cooldown bypass, the cooldown reset, and the 33% uptime on the crazy cast speed. A very unique ascendancy class. I'm not entirely sure what I would do with it because I don't know what all the skills and things are outside of really using this class to, like I was mentioning, just slow enemies and use that to learn enemy moves better. And that is the 2 of the 3 ascendancies that will eventually be available for the sorceress that we have to play with in early access off the rip here. Looking awesome so far. We got 10 to go. The warrior. First up is Titan. We've got 8 here. Number 1, you start down here in the bottom left. Up here, Stone Skin would give you 50% more armor from equipped body armor. Okay, that's a lot of armor. Seems good. Number 2, Earthbreaker. 20% chance for slam skills you use yourself to cause aftershocks. Aftershocks are bursts of area damage that occur after the initial impact of the skill causing them. If not otherwise specified, the aftershock will deal the same damage as the initial impact in the same area. So basically, for slam skills you use yourself, there's a 20% chance for them to deal damage again, which seems good. If you're doing all slam skills, it's a 20% more damage over like a larger time, not guaranteed with each hit, but seems good. Beyond this, number 3 is Ancestral Empowerment. Every second slam skill you use yourself is ancestrally boosted. An ancestrally boosted skill has 20% more damage and area of effect. So that would make your slams bigger. So every other hit deals 20% more damage with more AoE, and you have a chance for those bigger slam hits to cause an aftershock. Seems good. What's next here? Number 4, Colossal Capacity. Carry a chest which adds 20 inventory slots. Well, that's insane. I know from playing in Affliction League, having those 20 inventory slots extra is so awesome. That is a 33% more stuff you can carry in maps. You can carry more stuff with you that you're trying to use, stack a bunch of maps on you, or be able to loot more stuff out of your maps with this Ascendancy class. That's pretty insane. Beyond that, number 5, Hulking Form. 50% increased effect of small passive skills. That is also insane. Wow. Huh. Well, we've also seen in the reveal that on all the pathing nodes, you can specify which attribute you want. So even if you're playing a warrior, you can set your tree up to stack a lot of attributes of whatever type you're wanting. And for an attribute stacker, this probably just becomes the best ascendancy. Huh. You would have to be able to see the passive tree to really plan this out, but that is very intriguing, and a lot of potential there for like off-classing from the warrior. And the warrior's going to do a lot of mace slam type things, but you could definitely do tons of different things with this. That is very cool. Number 6 here, Crushing Impacts. Your hits are crushing blows. Crushing blows cause a heavy stun on enemies that are primed for stun. Normal enemies are primed for stun when they have at least 40% heavy stun buildup. Magic enemies are instead primed at 60% buildup, rare at 70%, and unique at 80%. So this doesn't seem like it gives you a stun primer in any way. That could be like part of the small nodes here. You would have to work in like priming an enemy for stun, however that exactly works. A heavy stun. Oh, okay, here we go. Heavy stun says hitting an enemy builds towards a heavy stun based on the damage dealt. Different enemies have different heavy stun thresholds and durations, with very large monsters having a high heavy stun threshold. Players cannot be heavy stunned. While an enemy is heavy stunned, they cannot act and count as immobilized. Physical damage and melee damage each cause 50% more heavy stun buildup. These bonuses are multiplicative with each other. So melee physical damage gives 50% more times 50% more. So if you're wanting to do heavy stuns, that's the way to go about it. That makes sense. So it says builds towards a heavy stun. So this is priming an enemy for stun based on the damage dealt. And then once you reach the threshold for the heavy stun, the crushing blow will heavy stun them for whatever duration that is, which varies per enemy. Yeah, there's a lot to that would have to be experimented with, but could be very strong, just immobilizing an enemy. And then the node beyond that, Surprising Strength, gives you 40% more damage against heavy stunned enemies. And I guess if you could start priming for the next stun while the enemy is heavy stunned, maybe you could perpetually stun an enemy? I don't know. There might be some kind of prevention allowing you to stack up those stuns. Would have to play around with that and see. Lastly here, number 8, Mysterious Lineage. 15% more maximum life. Just 15% more life. There you go. That's pretty strong. So the top side of this is slam based. The right side of this is stun based, but you could bypass all of that and then go for increased effective small passives, get more armor and get more life, and kind of build whatever you could imagine with the Titan. This is very cool. A lot of possibilities here too. Wow, we're like 3 for 3 on these being just like bangers. What's next here? Warbringer. I've got 9 different nodes here. First one being Anvil's Weight. Break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. It doesn't say what break armor is, but I imagine it's probably like an ignore physical damage reduction kind of thing. Break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. I don't know what that means. Number 2, beyond that, says you can break enemy armor to below 0. So you can give an enemy negative armor, which would, I guess, increase physical damage you can deal. So this is really only like physical melee damage type stuff. Anvil's weight and imploding impacts. Interesting. Seems strong. Number 3, a one-off, is called Jade Heritage. Grants skill encased in Jade. Gain a stack of Jade every second. The spell consumes all stacks of Jade to grant a buff for a duration that absorbs all damage from hits, up to a maximum based on the amount of Jade consumed. While encased, you cannot move or perform actions. You cannot move or perform actions. So it's a very defensive spell that can stack. It doesn't specify a maximum number of Jade, but it absorbs all damage from hits. So if you're low on life, you could use that, encase yourself in Jade, allow you to regen back to full. Interesting, but very niche use. It's not something I feel like you would want to be using a lot of the time. If you were able to build your character defensively pretty tanky, I could see the usefulness of this wearing off pretty quickly. I'm unsure how I feel about that. Number 4 is Answered Call. Grants skill Ancestral Spirits. Trigger Ancestral Spirits when you summon a totem. Each of your totems will summon an Ancestral Spirit minion to fight for you. If the totem that summoned the minion dies, then the Ancestral Spirit will too. Okay, no idea how useful that would be, necessarily. If you're spawning a bunch of totems, maybe that could be good, but we don't know how many totems you might be able to spawn. I think in all of the footage I've seen, I don't think I've seen more than one totem outside of, I think, an artillery ballista. So I don't know about that, but it doesn't specify that it has to be a melee totem, so maybe there could be some play there with artillery ballistas, maybe. Beyond that is Wooden Wall. 20% of damage from hits is taken from your nearest totem's life before you. So if your totems are tanky and can survive, that's pretty much a 20% less damage taken from hits. So that's interesting. On the bottom side of this, we've got Renly's Training. Gain 40% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. Okay, this is really interesting. So the shield will roll with a base chance to block on it, and there's probably mods that can increase the block chance on the shield. This will just, regardless, set it to 40% block chance. And then you wouldn't need too much extra block at that point to scale that up. Whoa. Beyond that, Turtle Charm. 35% less block chance, can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. Whoa. And this doesn't specify attack block or spell block. This is, maybe block is just block in PoE 2. Maybe. I know you can raise your shield to block all incoming projectiles and things, and then there's a stun meter that builds up regardless of your block chance. I think just putting on a shield will give you the raise shield skill. That's pretty crazy. I don't know about like the ability to stack block or how much block you would be able to get if this 35% less block would still allow you to get to a block cap, but that seems really strong defensively. 2 more nodes here. Warcaller's Bellow. Corpses in your presence explode when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage. That's not a chance for them to explode, they explode, dealing life as physical damage. And if you're scaling physical damage, that should scale that. That seems pretty strong. And then beyond that, number 9 says ignore Warcry cooldowns. That's insane. Just no cooldowns on Warcries. I don't know how many Warcries we'll have access to. Well, Warcries recently got very, very strong in PoE 1, so these could be very powerful. There's a lot of random different things here. I don't know how well any of this kind of synergizes together. Given my experiences playing with a bunch of different builds in PoE 1, like this is kind of like, well, these two things are good, cool. Well, these two things are good, then these two things are good, and then these two things are good. But how do you put them all together to make something strong there? I guess like the break armor, imploding impacts, and the Warcry bit, the like outside arc of this. If you're doing big physical damage things, breaking armor, crazy Warcries, that could be a thing. Probably more general use in this block stuff than there is the totems. Or maybe totems are just like really crazy. Maybe these ancestral spirits are good. This one isn't quite jumping out as amazing as the others were so far, but there definitely is big potential here with the break armor, ignore Warcry cooldowns. Up next, the Ranger. We got that Deadeye. Ascendancy from PoE 1. There's a 4A and a 4B. Interesting. Anyways, number 1 is called Avidity. 30% chance that if you would gain frenzy charges, you instead gain up to your maximum number of frenzy charges. That's pretty cool. Beyond that, Thrilling Chase. Benefits from consuming frenzy charges for your skills have 50% chance to be doubled. Well, I don't know what skills use frenzy charges and consume them. I mean, if Flicker Strike is still a thing, that could be something. Well, what would you get for like doubling the effect of the Flicker Strike? I don't know. I would need to see the skills for that. That seems very strong though. I think we got to see like something with a power charge on a monk in the content reveal that utilized the power charge to unleash this big devastating hit. So there could definitely be some strong play there. And then stacking max frenzy charges, like you can gain up to your max, be able to just like devastate stuff with this. That seems very strong, I would imagine, at least. Number 3, Eagle Eyes. You have no accuracy penalty at distance, which is very interesting. In PoE 1, accuracy is accuracy. It was your chance to hit, nothing more. It seems like distance from an enemy might affect your accuracy based on this node existing here. So you could get rid of that accuracy penalty. I wonder if that is quantified in the game, like how much that accuracy penalty is. If that's something we're going to actually know, I'm not sure. Then this 4A and 4B is, I see, point blank or far shot. So you can choose which of these you would want. Point blank is projectile deal 20% more hits damage. I think this S needs to be on projectiles. Projectiles deal 20% more hit damage to targets in the first 3.5 meters of their movement, scaling down with the distance traveled to reach 0% after 7 meters. 20% more damage with hits to targets in the first 3.5 meters. So it seems like a decent range there before it starts tapering off. Then 4B, far shot, projectiles deal 0% more damage with hits to targets in the first 3.5 meters of their movement, scaling up with distance traveled to reach 20% after 7 meters. So yeah, they just are kind of the opposite there. You pick which one you're after. That's pretty cool. Rather than splitting them, they just kind of made it one node. You take the one you want. Then beyond that is endless munitions, skills, fire, and additional projectile. Now this isn't just for bows, right? Nor is point blank or far shot. This is projectile hit damage, projectiles. There are spells that are projectiles. There are grenades that are projectiles. If Frostblades is a thing, there could be melee skills with projectiles. So, very similarly to PoE 1, there's a lot of versatility here in what you play. You're not forced into bows. And then you would take far shot or point blank on your way to that additional projectile, and additional projectiles are very valuable. Number 6, called shots. You can apply an additional mark. That seems very strong. I don't think there's a way to do that in PoE 1. You get the mark you apply, and that's kind of it. And marks are very strong in PoE 1, so if they're equally strong in PoE 2, ooh, multiple marks could be huge. Especially for bossing, because that's where you'd really want to like get those marks down. Very interesting there. I'm intrigued. And then the Tailwind, Gathering Winds. Gain Tailwind on skill use, lose all Tailwind when hit. Tailwind is a stacking buff which grants 1% increased movement speed, 3% increased skill speed, and 15% increased evasion rating per stack for 10 seconds. Refreshing whenever you gain another stack, maximum 10 stacks. So as long as you're not getting hit, you can ramp up a lot of speed. 3% increased skill speed. Any skills. So that would work for spells, cast speed, and attack speed. And then beyond that is Wind Ward, 3% less damage taken per Tailwind. Now you lose all Tailwind when hit, so you would have to gain that Tailwind back, but it's on skill use, so if you have a lot of speed you can ramp the Tailwind really quickly, and this is a really strong defensive buff, especially if you have a lot of evasion, you're not taking hits a lot. That could be just like 30% less damage anytime you take a hit if you have high evasion. Interesting. I like the Deadeye. Next, we've got the Pathfinder. Oh my goodness, what is this thing? 5. This is a one-off node called Brew Concoction. You can make a poisonous concoction, fulminating concoction, shattering concoction, explosive concoction, or bleeding concoction. Consume charges from your mana flask to throw a bottle that explodes, dealing unarmed chaos attack damage in an area. Poison inflicted by this skill has more effect. That's the poisonous one. Fulminating is lightning attack damage and inflicts lightning exposure. Shattering is cold attack damage, cold exposure. Explosive, fire attack damage, fire exposure. Bleeding concoction, physical attack damage in an area, and bleeding inflicted by this skill has more effect. Well, that's interesting. You'll only be able to take one of those, probably. I don't think you'd be able to spec multiple of these. Consumes charges from your mana flask. Huh. Well, what else we got here? Connected Chemistry. 50% more flask charges gained. Pretty self-explanatory. Beyond that is Enduring Elixirs. Life flask effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. Life flask effects do not queue. So you can kind of preempt life flasks with that based on their duration. If you know you're going to take damage. That's a really big convenience thing. Number 3, Contagious Contamination. The most damaging poison on enemies you kill is spread to other enemies within 1.5 meters. Only the most damaging poison. So if you're dealing a big poison, this could be really good. Like a one-hit big poison, then it would have a contagion effect to it. Beyond that is Overwhelming Toxicity. Double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies, and 35% less poison duration. So is there a cap then on the number of poisons you can inflict on an enemy? It wouldn't be limitless like in PoE 1. So the big thing I'm getting from this is that poisons are going to work differently than they do in Path of Exile 1. And based on how poison actually works, will determine the usefulness of Overwhelming Toxicity. Double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies. It doesn't say apply multiple poisons per hit. Double the number of poisons you can inflict. So it would be like doubling the max number of poisons, if I understand that correctly. Interesting. Another one-off here, number 6. Traveler's Wisdom grants 5 passive skill points. Would that be worth an ascendancy? Potentially, maybe. Interesting. Number 7, Running Assault. 30% less movement speed penalty when using skills while moving. Okay, you can run around and use skills and move faster using a Pathfinder. And then beyond that, Relentless Pursuit. Your speed is unaffected by slows. Your speed is unaffected by slows. So it doesn't say movement speed, it says your speed. So I would take that to mean your attack speed, cast speed, movement speed, skill speed, whatever you want to put to it. That could be really strong as well. And then you have the option to build around any of these concoction things. Definitely some cool stuff here. Doesn't seem anything insane like some of the things I've seen on others, like a speed boost, Yeah, like if this poison thing is good, maybe Pathfinder's really good. But kind of like thinking about the others, like double the benefits from consuming frenzy charges, more damage, additional mark, like ignore Warcry cooldowns, break enemy armor, chance for more damage from aftershocks, more damage here, crushing blows, stuns. I don't think it's quite jumping out to me with the potential as the others. 5 passive skill points is nothing compared to 50% more effect of small passives. Like, I mean, it's only 1 point. You gotta travel through the inventory slots for that. But, I don't think I'm sold on the Pathfinder. I feel like this is the least enticing one so far. Halfway done. There's a lot to dig into on these. The Witch. We've got the Blood Mage. Seems like you would start here, and with this Ascendancy, you are forced into Sanguiomancy. Grants skill life remnants. Skills gain a base life cost equal to base mana cost. Life remnants drinks, it's a buff, drinks the blood of your enemies to restore your life. While active, enemies you kill have a chance to spawn a life remnant, and critically hitting a target spawns a life remnant every few seconds. Picking up a life remnant grants you life which can overflow maximum life. Overflow is underlined here as if it's a keyword, but they didn't give us the description of that. So there's potential you can stack more life through this overflow thing, but you have to spend life to make that work. Interesting, so this one's very unique right off the get-go, no matter what you're doing. Number 2, Vitality Siphon. 10% of spell damage leached as life. That's good. I mean, depending on how good leech is, 10% spell damage leeches life is a lot for one Ascendancy past Sanguiomancy. Number 3 is also one off past that. Open Sores. Your curses have infinite duration. Based on my experience with curses, anybody taking this node is lazy. This should be pretty unused, I would imagine. Unless maybe the curse costs too much mana. Okay, I can see that, and therefore it costs too much life to use and keep reapplying, but you're also gonna use skills and things. I don't know. I don't think that's a great node. Blood Barbs. Gain 10% of damage as extra physical damage. Elemental damage also contributes to bleeding magnitude. What? Well, that seems kind of crazy. Number 5, Gore Spike. 1% increased crit damage bonus per 40 life. Crit damage bonus, so that's crit multi per 40 life. That seems good. Oh my god, this is nuts. Sunder the Flesh. Base crit hit chance for spells is 15%? That is wild. So that's 3 Ascendancy points to get out here for that. So you'd be looking at 1 of 2 through 4, or only Grasping Wounds, which says 25% of life lost from hits is prevented, then that much life is lost over 4 seconds instead. Petrified Blood kind of thing. Base crit chance for spells is 15%. You would need 667% crit chance to reach max. Which, thinking about that PoE1, I was like, oh, that's nothing. Get some power charges, throw on a diamond flask, you got that easy. But maybe it's not quite as simple. Maybe that 15% base crit isn't as OP as it is in PoE1, because that would be busted. And you get the multi for stacking life. Oh man, that is crazy. The other thing here, 8. Gain energy shield from equipped body armor as extra maximum life. So if you have a big ES chest piece, I guess that would cover your life. And then if you have a life cost to your skills, would that pull from your energy shield before the life? This doesn't say it takes away the energy shield that the body armor would give, just that it gives it extra as max life. So you could get a ton of flat life from that, but do you really not get the benefit of the energy shield because of the Sanguiomancy? I think that'd probably be the case there, but you cannot get Crimson Power and the base crit. But you could get Crimson Power with the Spell Leech or the Blood Barbs. Oh, you could get the spell crit plus whatever this Blood Barbs thing is. You wouldn't have the spell damage leech, but wow. Wow. Seems very unique, very strong. Oh boy, this one's got 11. Infernalist. You start up here at the top, going to the left, There's 1 and then it splits into 3. The 1 is altered flesh, 20% of cold damage taken as fire, 20% lightning taken as fire, 20% fizz taken as chaos. So if you're a CI, this is 20% less physical damage taken, and then 20% of cold and lightning as fire. Interesting. So then 2, 3, and 4 beyond that, we've got Bedat's Gaze. Reserves 20%, 25% of life, plus 1 max mana per 6 max life. Bedat's Will reserves 25% of life, plus 1 max spirit per 25 max life. Then Bedat's Hand reserves 25% of life, plus 1 max ES per 8 max life. I don't know if you'd ever want to like take all of those. There might be something there. You couldn't be CI with that though, so you have to deal with chaos damage. And then does the max life account for your unreserved life or just what you have left unreserved? I don't know how that would work exactly, but that's crazy. Potentially build enabling things in each of these 3. Go big mana, go big energy shield, go big spirit, which you need spirit to summon permanent minions and auras and things like that. Number 5, demonic possession. Shapeshift into a demon, vastly boosting the power of your spells. You gain demon flame every second you remain in demon form, causing your life to be lost at an ever increasing rate. Revert to human form if you reach 1 life. Use a skill that isn't a spell or reactivate this skill. So you could use an attack or a war cry, that's not a spell I don't think, to turn off the demon form. Vastly boosting the power of your spells, causing your life to be lost at an ever increasing rate. Beyond that is Master Darkness, which gives an additional 10 max demon flame. Now if you're like taking life degen per demon flame, there's a cap there. This does say at an ever increasing rate. So that kind of implies that if you have 1 demon flame, you're going to start taking degen, and the degen you're taking from that demon flame will slowly scale up. That's what I'm getting from the wording here, but it could be like a set degen per demon flame as you stack more of them, and if you're able to mitigate the degen, there is more potential there. Interesting. Would definitely have to be built around, and hopefully the power of the demon form is worth, and the word vastly boosting the power of your spells seems like it probably should be. What else do we got? 7, Pyromantic Pact. Maximum mana is replaced by maximum Infernal Flame. Gain Infernal Flame instead of spending mana for skill costs. Take maximum life and energy shield as fire damage when Infernal Flame reaches maximum. Lose all Infernal Flame on reaching max Infernal Flame. 10% of Infernal Flame lost per second if none was gained in the past 2 seconds. So this basically removes the mana cost from all your skills. And if you have enough max mana, you wouldn't ever reach the cap to it, and you could let it degen to not take the damage. But then, let's say you had 75% fire res, you would only take 25% of your life and energy shield as fire damage when it reaches maximum. And that can be recovered from pretty easily, depending on how quickly you're filling the Infernal Flame, which factors in the mana cost of your skills, and that's nifty. Now there's 2 different things beyond that that split off of Pyromantic Pact. Bringer of Flame says, while not on low Infernal Flame, all damage from you and allies in your presence contributes to ignite chance and magnitude. While not on low Infernal Flame. Low life, I believe I've heard, is 35% or lower. And if low Infernal Flame is 35% or lower, you would need to be above 35% Infernal Flame, and then all damage from you and allies in your presence contributes to ignite chance and magnitude. So I would think ignite chance, like it stacks up to give you an ignite. That might be the like stacking thing to give you the ignite. Ignite magnitude might be the damage. and that be like a damage over time multiplier for ignite kind of thing, is what the magnitude would mean, I'm guessing. But it also works for your allies, so like that's kind of a buff you could provide. The other one, Seething Body, while on high Infernal Flame, you and allies in your presence gain 20% of damage as fire damage. What if you're only dealing fire damage? Do you get 20% of fire damage as fire damage? It does say damage, so that could be 20% more fire damage. You and allies in your presence gain 20% of damage as fire with whatever high Infernal Flame is. So you'd have to kind of play a balancing act there. But if you're on high Infernal Flame, you're not on low Infernal Flame, so you could work all these in. And the other two are one-offs here. One of them is Loyal Hellhound. Grants the Summon Infernal Hound skill, and 20% of damage from hits is taken from your Hellhound's life before you. So it's like a Sentinel of Radiance. Summon Infernal Hound summons a reviving Infernal Hound which ignites enemies near it. The Hound takes a portion of damage from your hits for you. And it says ignites. The Sentinel of Radiance in PoE 1 is a just burning damage. So there might be an interplay here where if an enemy is ignited by the Infernal Hound and you try to inflict an ignite on an enemy, it would only take the higher one maybe, and you can only have one ignite, and you could negate that damage if you're inflicting an ignite. But if you're just stacking a bunch of minions, like this could be your big ignite. I don't know. That would have to be played around with. And lastly is Grinning Immolation, another one-off here from the start. Become ignited when you deal a critical hit, taking 15% of your life and energy shield as fire damage per second. 15% life and ES as fire damage per second. Doesn't say how long that lasts. I guess it would last until the ignite is removed. But if you're dealing lots of critical hits, you would inflict that a lot. Well, if you were ignite immune, you would negate that part of it. And the other thing it says here is 30% more critical damage bonus. So that's 30% more crit multi. It's not something you gain on crit or gain when ignited. This is just a debuff to this. And if you're ignite immune, you get rid of the downside here and just get the multi, which that seems pretty crazy. There's a lot of cool stuff to toy with here. The demon form, the whole Infernal Flame bit, the Hellhound is cool, the life reservation stuff is cool. There's a lot of different things you could do with this that are like very enabled by this class. Very cool. Okay, Witchhunter. We've got 8 of these. Number 1 is Weapons Master. 20 passive skill points become weapon set skill points. The weapon set skill points you can set to change when you weapon swap. So you could increase the number of those that you get basically there, which definitely has pretty high potential, I would say. Number 2 is Culling Strike. Culling Strikes kill normal enemies if their life is at 30% or below, magic enemies at 20%, rare at 10%, and unique at 5%. These thresholds are checked before the damage of the hit is applied. So if the hit knocks a unique enemy down to 5%, that won't cull it. It has to be at or below 5% when you hit it to get the Culling Strike. Beyond that, number 3, Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Decimating Strike. Hits against full life enemies remove between 5 and 30% of life before the damage of the hit is applied. So against a big life enemy, that could be just huge on that first hit. Like guaranteeing you just remove even 5% of its life on that first hit could be big if you're doing lots of little hits. That seems really strong, I will say. Witchbane. Enemies have maximum concentration equal to 40% of their maximum life. Break enemy concentration on hit equal to 100% of damage dealt. Enemies regain 10% of concentration every second if they haven't lost concentration in the past 5 seconds. Concentration says enemies have less cooldown recovery rate the lower their concentration, scaling down to 50% less cooldown recovery rate when concentration is 0. So that's only good for enemy cooldown things. And beyond that is No Mercy, deal up to 30% more damage to enemies based on their missing concentration. So that's good. Be a big bossing thing there as well. Especially like in PoE 1, Maven has a cooldown on her memory game ability. Now, if you drained her concentration, giving her 50% less cooldown recovery rate, you could try and make sure you make it through a phase without doing multiple memory games kind of thing. So that's why I'm saying there's like big bossing potential on that. That's cool. Number 6, Obsessive Rituals. Grants skill Sorcery Ward. 50% less armor and evasion rating. Sorcery Ward passively manifests a protective barrier which takes elemental damage from hits for you until depleted. The barrier instantly recharges to its full value a short time after it stops taking damage or is fully depleted. Then beyond that, Ceremonial Ablution? Ablution? Is that a word? The act of washing oneself. Ablution. Actually a word. 50% increased effect of Sorcery Ward. Sorcery Ward recovers 50% faster. But 50% less armor and evasion rating for that. And that only takes elemental damage from hits. So you're giving up armor, which protects you from phys damage, for an elemental protection. I'm not so sure about that. The 50% less armor and evasion like scares me from that, given that this is only for elemental damage. Last note here, Zealous Inquisition. 10% chance for enemies you kill to explode, dealing 100% of their maximum life as physical damage. Chances doubled against undead and demons. Well, that's cool. 100% of their max life is physical damage, so definitely kills any enemies nearby it if it goes off that are the same of the like pack of normal or magic enemies. Huh. Well, this definitely does not seem tied to the crossbow at all, being a Witchhunter. Like everything here seems like it would work with just about anything you'd want to do here. So it seems pretty versatile. You get extra like weapon swap bonus, which could be really big as well. It really opens that whole idea up more. I'm intrigued by the Witchhunter. Big bossing potential with this class for sure. Gemling Legionnaire. Now this one, when I first saw this in the content reveal, I was like, this one's gonna be busted. We shall see. Start at the bottom here, and 1 says plus 10% to quality of all skills. Now, if quality is as good as it now is on so many skills in PoE 1, this node is just insanely strong, insanely versatile. You can use this on any kind of build you can imagine. It's just insane. That seems so good. Further beyond this, implanted gems +1 to level of all skills. It's not support gems on either of these, just the skill gems. Could be a lot of potential in that. Number 3, advanced thaumaturgy, 30% less cost of skills. Skill gems have 30% more attribute requirements. 30% less cost of skills means you don't need as much mana investment, but then you need more attribute investment potentially. Not so sure about that. Maybe it could be necessary. The other side of this, number 4, integrated efficiency grants 3 additional skill slots. Be 3 additional buttons you might have to use on your build, or 3 more things to automate with your build. Like, who knows? 3 additional skills that could get 10% quality and +1 level. Beyond that, number 5, gem studded. You can use 2 copies of the same support gem in different skills. Gemling Legionnaire is gonna have like some of the wackiest builds in the game, without a doubt, because of this. The fact that you can only use 1 of each support gem like really limits you. This opening it up so you can use 2 copies of the same support gem definitely opens things up quite a bit and doesn't force you as much into like cycling different skills quite as heavily as it might seem like the game wants to push you. So that seems like it'd be really good. Number 6 gives +1 max cold res per 4 blue support gems socketed, max fire for 4 red support gems, max lightning for 4 green support gems. That's just support gems. Gains more value the more support gems you can have. And I don't know how much ability to get max res we would have either. Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fun builds come out of this that you can only do with the Gemling Legionnaire, without a doubt. Number 7, adaptive capability. Attribute requirements of gems can be satisfied by your highest attribute. Oh, and then beyond that, inherent bonuses from int, strength, and dex are doubled. So you could, like, there's attribute stackers stuff in here too. Wow. Oh, there is so much potential in this ascendancy. It's not something I think I would start with in a brand new game, but like once we get to tinkering and min-max and stuff, Gemling Legionnaire, I bet that's where it's at. But who knows? Like some of these other ones, like they've got so many insane things. Like this Infernalist got this demon form thing. Like you're not getting that on a Gemling Legionnaire, so there's still a lot of variability. There's so many cool things to pick from. I've only looked at 10 of these. There's still 2 more. And there's going to be 24 more of these when the game fully launches. Like, oh, this game is going to be so massive. What's the Invoker got going for it here? Start here. Top right. One is at the top. Lead me through grace. Gain 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield on equipped body armor. Gain 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating on equipped body armor. Cannot gain spirit from equipment. Well, there's your aura stacker, I would imagine. Wow. What? And protect me from harm behind it. Evasion rating also grants physical damage reduction, but 40% less evasion rating. Also grants physical damage reduction, so you still get the evade. Whoa. Well, okay. This one's bringing it. Number 3, Faith is a Choice. Grants skill Meditate. The spell that channels to recharge energy shield can overcharge your energy shield up to double its normal maximum. Channeling ends when you take damage or your energy shield is double its normal maximum. This skill cannot be used if your energy shield is already double its normal maximum or you have no max ES. Whoa! Number 4, I am the Blizzard. Gain 10% of damage as extra cold. Damage on freezing enemies create chilled ground. Then 5, I am the Thunder. Similarly, gain 10% of damage as extra lightning damage, 25% chance on shocking enemies to create shocked ground. Beyond that is And I Shall Rage. Grants skill Unbound Avatar. It's a buff. Says gain Unbound Fury by inflicting elemental ailments with hits on enemies. Once you reach maximum Unbound Fury, consume it to become unbound for a duration, vastly augmenting your elemental prowess. So that's kind of the same that the Warden does in PoE 1, which is very strong. Number 7, the Soul Springs Eternal. Meta skills gain 35% more energy. What does that mean? The meta skills might be like a cast on Ignite, maybe? Yeah, I have no idea what this does. Everything else on this is just like, whoa, whoa, whoa! So, yeah. Number 8, Sunder My Enemies. Critical hits ignore non-negative enemy monster LE res. Well, dang, that's good. And it's now like no longer bad to have enemy resistances lowered below 0 like it is on Inquisitor and PoE 1, or else you would just like flip it back up. Now you'd still get the negative resistance value. So that's cool. And Scatter Them to the Winds. Number 9, grants skill Elemental Expression. Trigger Elemental Expression on melee critical hit. That is a spell that creates a fiery explosion, an arcing bolt of lightning, or an icy wave of projectiles. The chance for an explosion is proportional to your strength, for a bolt proportional to your dex, and for a wave proportional to your intelligence. So if you stack a ton of strength, you'll get way more fiery explosions off of that. And that's behind the crits ignore Monster Elurez, but that's on a melee critical hit as well. Invoker seems insane. If there weren't so many just insane things on all the other ascendancies, like I'd say this was like potentially like the most crazy one that there is. This spirit gain for ES evasion on body armor, like that's, oh my god, and the evasion, that's insane. Invoker is crazy. Last one, Acolyte of Chayula. Start over here in the right. One, it's up at the top. Ravenous Doubts, Mana Leech is instant. I think you can only leech mana from attacks, but that's pretty nuts. And beyond that, Consuming Questions, you cannot recharge Energy Shield. Mana Leech effects also recover Energy Shield. Well, okay, that seems good. Both kind of defensive things there, but then you don't add a spec into a bunch of things. You have to get the Mana Leech somehow. It doesn't give you the Mana Leech there. Number 3, Chayula's Gift, 10% max Chaos Res. Chaos Res is doubled, not bad. One off for 4, Reality Rending. 23% chance to gain 25% damage with hits as extra chaos damage. 13% chance to gain 50% damage as hits with extra chaos damage. 7% chance to gain 100% of damage with hits as extra chaos damage. Like a trickster node. I don't think it's on the trickster tree anymore, but just like spiky damage out of nowhere. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Just random chances for extra damage. Number 5, Waking Dream grants skill into the breach. It's a buff that creates a breach around you, allowing you to see nearby flames of Chayula. You are considered to be in a breach while this skill is active. Flame of Chayula. Collecting Flames of Chayula grants the following bonuses. Red Flames of Chayula leech 7% of your maximum life to you. Blue Flames leech 7% max mana to you. Purple Flames provide a stacking buff granting 7% of damage as extra chaos for 5 seconds and stacks up to 10 times. Well, that's crazy. Number 6, Lucid Dreaming. Effect and duration of Flames of Chayula on you is double. Well, this seems insane too. So you just walk around and spawn a breach and you just like collect these buffs. Well, that's really cool. And there's the Mana Leech you could get from that could leech your ES up. That's nifty. And then there's a 3-piece set down here. First is Embrace the Darkness. It removes all spirit. Base maximum darkness is 100. For each life or energy shield lost to damage, reserve 1 darkness instead if possible. Darkness reservation lasts for 10 seconds, plus 5 to max darkness per level. So it's an extra damage buffer that has a long cooldown to it. And then beyond that, Grasp of the Void, gain 1% of damage as extra chaos per 20 unreserved darkness. So at level 100, that's an extra 500. There's 600 base max darkness. 600 divided by 20 is 30% of damage as extra chaos if you've not taken damage, pretty much. And Inner Silence, number 9, has 50% reduced darkness reservation duration. So that could get it to come back faster. So this is kind of if you want to use it as a like extra buffer on life. This is if you want to like try and not get hit and get a bunch of extra damage. But removes all spirits, so you wouldn't be able to reserve auras, I guess? So maybe that's actually really bad. Well, this Waking Dream into the breach thing with the different buffs seems really cool. Doubling that, 14% of damage is extra chaos if you get both of these. And you can stack that up to 10 times. And it says effect and duration is double, so that's 10 seconds. So based on how often those purple flames spawn, that could be 140% damage as extra chaos in there. Let alone the life and mana leech. That's crazy. And that is all of them. Wow. All of these seem really cool. I don't think I'd start a Gemling Legionnaire, but I feel like a lot of people will settle into a Gemling Legionnaire. And then everything looks really, really cool except maybe the Pathfinder. And that's just my impressions on them. And I was hoping I'd come out of there with like, what do I start with? And there's so much that's really cool that I just don't know. This Chronomancer could be a really, really, really awesome like starter. If you do something cold based and get the enemies in your presence is slowed, get the recoup, so if you take damage you recover in the life, and then the cooldown, like I think I'd take like 7, 8, 6, and 1, like get crazy cooldowns and just like be super tanky. This elemental storm thing, the extra exposure. Oh my goodness. A chest with 20 inventory slots, the aftershocks. Look at Pathfinder again. Is there anything that really like merits this? I mean, it all depends on the poison. Whatever this double the number of poisons you can inflict on enemies is. Poisonous concoction maybe. So there could be a reason to play Pathfinder, but there's a lot of other classes that like, oh, you can do whatever you want on the Deadeye for the most part. This, you're kind of playing poison or a concoction thing, or there's probably no good reason to play a Pathfinder. Oh, this the Blood Mage, 15% spell crit. It's also cool. And we're only seeing 30% of this. Like, oh, Path of Exile 2 is going to be such a blast. Invoker's so crazy. Well, okay. Before I went into this, the thing I was thinking about that I've seen is whatever this like crazy lightning nonsense is. I was thinking about that, and I was probably going to try and play around with whatever that is. I think it might be called a lightning rod. So I'm kind of leaning towards Deadeye. I might just like go with that. But I kind of want to play everything. Except the Pathfinder. I kind of want to play them all. This Titan looks so cool. In the video too, the slam skills with the aftershocks, it looks so devastating and powerful. I bet these war cries are insane. Yeah, I don't know. You guys know what your class is going to be? Which class you're going to play? Maybe you can help me. Just leave it in the comments. Like, what class are you going to play? Invoker? Invoker looks so ridiculous. It might have to be an Invoker. But also, like, my thoughts with the Deadeye, like, I could play around with a lot of different stuff on Deadeye. I can play with the crossbow stuff, I can play with the bow stuff, I can play with spells that do projectiles. 2 marks. I really think I might start Deadeye. I think that might be what happens. There's no Raider here, but Raider was kind of like my go-to in PoE 1 until it recently got removed. And there's lots of cool, like, movement ability things that you get by being a ranger, but you have access to all the different skills. You're not actually tied into your class, so I don't know. I wish I could tell you right now what I was gonna play, and I'm like 50%. I'm like 50%. That's gonna be Deadeye, but that could change come tomorrow when we jump into Path of Exile 2. Now, my plan for content going into the first playthrough of PoE 2 is probably going to be very similar to what I did with the first playthroughs of Dark Souls and Elden Ring and stuff. Kind of just like really show my first impressions on just about everything. So it's going to lead for longer videos. In PoE 1, I can level through the campaign. It takes like 8 to 10 hours. The video cuts down to like an hour and 10 to an hour 30 minutes, and I could do that in a day, but it's gonna take a lot more. There's gonna be a lot more to discover and experiment with and see. So like, I'm not gonna just like blast through it because I can't stream. If I could stream it, maybe I would just kind of go ham at things, but I want to get content out as quickly as possible, but I don't want to upload a 8-hour VOD. So I'll probably do like 3-hour segments, edit it down if I find a good stopping point, and push those out about as quickly as I can until I get through the campaign and we start get things rolling. The very first push through, I'm gonna have to like go through the story stuff and explore the zones for the first time. It's not gonna just be level progression, gear progression, gym progression, boss kills like the PoE 1 leveling videos I put out. So it'll probably be a little bit different from normal, but everything is going to be different from normal because it's PoE 2! It's here! Almost. One more day. I'm so excited. I can't wait. But I think that's where I've got to stop for this video. I hope you guys are as hyped as I am. But with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button as it really helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss more videos from me. If you'd like to help support my channel, please consider using the super thanks to the heart icon just below the video or by joining to become a member. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.